Hello everyone, welcome back to Sam's Doing Stuff. What am I doing today? Well, we're going to replace a light fixture with a ceiling fan. Now, yes, you may think, really a how-to video installing a ceiling fan? I've done 2 of these so far, and because of what I've gone through, I thought it might be a really good idea to make a video and show you some of the nuances and the extenuating circumstances that I've been going through to install this fan. This video is in no way a sponsored video. This is not a sponsored product, so I want to make that perfectly clear. These are just fans that my wife bought and I'm installing. Here we have a Hunter brand, 137 Sala Grande. Maybe we should turn it over. I don't speak Spanish very well. There we go. All right, so we've got the Hunter Classic Series for large room 54-inch fan. Is there a model number? Yeah, right over here. Model number is 59585. Now, before you even open the box, I'm going to need you to get in your car and go to the hardware store, and you're going to want to pick up some longer screws for your junction box. Yeah, the fan company does not provide you with longer screws, and you'll see what I mean when I go to install this into the ceiling fan rated box that's already mounted in the ceiling. It should be obvious, but I'm going to say it anyway. This project, you are working with electricity. If you're not comfortable working with electricity, please hire a professional to do this because electricity is dangerous and it can kill you. There. All right, if you feel comfortable now, let's continue. So we're going to take off the old fixture, pretty simple. I'm going to go ahead and remove these bulbs so I can get to the screws. There are 2 screws right here that are connecting it to the junction box. I'm going to take those out. A little insulation with that one. It should drop down and just be held by the wires now. Now this part here is extremely important. It's going to determine the functionality of your fan and how you install it or how you wire it. So luckily for us, our house is a newer house. It was built in 2003. We have 3-wire run to our lights. All right, let's get these wire nuts off here and I'll show you what I'm talking about. And I want you to note right here, if you can see it, there's a lot of paint on it, but this hot right here is a red wire and it's wired into the black wires on the light. So that means the red wire was powering the light. That's important. Make note of that. Get this undone. There we go. Okay, we got hot, which is the red wire, white is the neutral, and of course the copper wire is ground. Now what you don't see, and I'm going to let you see up in this box, what the electricians did that built this house. They took then the black wire, remember I said this is 3-wire. 3-wire means there's a neutral, 2 hots, and a ground. They took this last hot and they just tucked it up in here and they wrapped some electrician's tape around the end of it. So that tells me that over in the switch, there's going to be black, red, white, and copper, and I'll be able to wire this fan to have the light and the fan operating separately. Now, if you don't have this wiring set up, if your house is older and maybe it only has 2-wire, which it only has a hot, a neutral, and a ground, then you could still wire up a fan. The switch is just going to power the entire fan and you'll have to use the little dangly chains to turn the fan or the light on and off as you need it. This is nice because I can do them separately from the wall. The last step in getting the box ready for the fan is we have to take this bracket off. This bracket was for the light, so we want the junction box completely by itself. We're going to take these 2 screws out and remove that bracket. Now, this is what I was talking about earlier. Do you see how short these little screws are? These are the only screws I have to work with, and the fan did not come with any longer screws. The mounting bracket that mounts the fan and is going to mount to our fan rated junction box sits a little far away from the ceiling. See, these are rubber pads. You know, that plus the thickness of the bracket, and you're going to need a couple of washers to keep the screw from going through this slot. All of that together means you're going to need longer screws than what you originally had in the box. So either go to the hardware store or raid your toolbox. I'm going to raid my toolbox because I save everything, and then we're going to mount this to the ceiling. So I've got my 2 longer screws here that'll fit this junction box, and then I've got a couple of small washers. Get in focus there if you can see it. I'm going to put those washers on the screws. Now I'm going to mount our bracket to the junction box. I like to have, let's do it this way, I guess. Yeah, I like to have all the wires coming through this slot here. So I'm going to bring all of my wires over this way. And I'm going to put my bracket up in place. See how I have all the wires going the same way? I just think it's easier. And I'm going to finger start these screws into the box with the little washer on them. Just get them started. Now I'm going to hold this bracket pretty much centered on the box, right where I want it, push it up against the ceiling, and use my driver. Just get those in nice and snug. Just like that. It's not going anywhere. All right, we're done up at the ceiling for the time being. So open the box. Well, you've already done that. You spread out all the parts, okay? For your very first step, it's going to involve this motor right here. So it's got a bunch of wiring coming out here. Just take part of the box, the packaging, and set this down upside down like this so that it sits in the box and it doesn't damage the wiring. That's very helpful. Next in the packaging, you're going to find these fan brackets. They look like this. And you're going to mount every one of these all the way around on the fan motor. All of your screws and parts and everything come in a single bag like this. You're going to rip that open, and then all the individual bags inside, not that one, there they are. These individual bags, which are in another bag, rip that open, all have markings on them. You can see this one has a square, or no, it has a circle on it right there, and then this one has a solid circle on it right there. Yeah, they're all marked specifically, and it corresponds with the instructions. So anyway, yeah, here's your 3 lines, square. You get the idea. So the bag you want right now is you want to look for this one with the double triangles on it facing each other. Those are the screws that are going to mount these fan brackets onto the motor. So I'm just dropping them into the little hole there. Take my Phillips head screwdriver and just very carefully start that into the hole. Just get it a little snug. Take your next screw, drop it in the hole, and just start it nice and gentle. Make sure it doesn't cross thread. And then snug those up. Just one little ooga-dooga. All right, you're going to repeat that 4 more times. When you're finished with that step, your fan motor should look like that. The next part of this job, in my opinion, is the absolute worst. And I really wish the manufacturer would just do about 50% of this and then package it up. But this is the way they send it to you. So I'm going to show you the way I found is easiest to do this. So you got to take the rubber band off of this mess of wires right here. Straighten it out as best you can. There's like a knot tied in it here. You don't untie that, just leave it as it is. Next, you're looking for the screws with 3 lines on it. You're going to take 2 of those screws, and right here in the top of the motor there are 3 holes. It doesn't matter which of those holes you use. Put 2 of these screws in. Make sure you just start them with your fingers so they don't cross thread. Put them in about, 1/3 to 1/2 of the way. Just like that. Now you're gonna take the part that has the light fixture on it. See where it's got the 2 light bulb things? And this whole mess of crap in here, this whole mess of wire, you need to pull all of that out. So I'm gonna take the harness and kind of work that out. I'm gonna get these little wires down in here, and then this big gray box, pull it all out of there. Try and get it as loose as you can and out of the way. You know, don't damage the wires or anything, but you gotta unpack the entire inside of this. If you don't do it, you're gonna be fighting to get these screws the way you need them to go. Now, look at the underside of this. See how there are 2 keyed screw holes? Those are gonna match up over the screws that you just put into the fan. So try and line them up. You're gonna run this wire through that hole. See the hole right there? This wire harness goes through that hole, and this is why we loosened all this up, because otherwise there'd be no way you'd get that through there. Now you have to try and line up those 2 keyed holes with the screws that you already put in. All right, I got it. Like I say, I've done 2 of these already, so now you're gonna turn it counterclockwise till it latches into the smaller part of those keyed holes. So this is down in the belly of the beast here. Oh, can you see the screw? Right over here. Goodness, that's impossible. The screw is, yeah, this is the worst part. There it is. I don't know if you can see it. There it is. That's the keyhole there. See how I'm turning that so that it lines up in there? Right there. Okay. So now you're going to reach down in there once they're in their little keyhole area, and you're going to snug those down just I don't know, just so they're touching. There's one. Yeah, right there. It's just snug. And then you got to find the other one. You're going to move these wires out of the way. There it is, down in there. Gosh, I don't know if you guys can see it or not. It's right there. And I'm just going to tighten that in, just like I did the other one, just barely snug. Because now you've got the next fun part. The next fun part is you're taking another one of these little screws, and you got to put it in the 3rd hole. Now the way I do this is I take my finger, put the screw on the head of the screwdriver, and I'll just hold it like that, okay? I'm gonna stick my whole fat finger and the screwdriver and the screw down into here. And like I say, I don't really know if you can see this or not, but the whole thing's gonna go down in here like this. I'm gonna try and find that hole, the end of the screw. Oh, nope, I lost it. Gotta reach down in there and get it. Okay, I was lucky I was able to grab it. All right, one more time. Hold it with your finger, get stuff out of the way. There we go, I got it that time. All right, it's in the hole. We're gonna tighten that down, and you're gonna tighten this one all the way now. Don't strip it, but just one ooga-dooga. And the reason I left these other 2 screws loose is so that when I put that 3rd screw in, if it needs to move any, it can slide just a little bit. And now we can tighten these down permanent like. There we go. There. Now, you thought that was hard. Now we got to put this whole thing back together. So you're going to take your little, what are these called? What did I call them? I don't remember what I called them. Anyway, they got color coding on them. You got to match up the colors and the letters, and you got to force them together. There we go. See how the A and the A are matched up, and the orange and yellow, snap that together. Now you have to stuff all of this crap back into that little hole. So I start with the little wires, get them down in there as far as they'll go. Tuck them in nice and tight. Then this wiring harness, that's what it's called, needs to go in but stay out of the way of the gray box. So I'm going to put that in and I'm going to shove it all the way down to the end. And that way this gray box can tuck in. The wires are in the way. What do I got in the way here? Hold on, got to redo that. Too much wires there. All right, here we go. I'm going to just turn this way maybe. Maybe this way was still the best way. Yep. Gonna get that over. And then push this gray button. Nope, there's still not enough room. Maybe I flatten these wires out a little. You know, I'm afraid I'm gonna ruin one of these wires doing this. But this is just what has to be done. Okay, now hook that. There we go. There, it worked. So whatever you gotta do, I don't know, look at mine. I shoved this down underneath it. All these other wires are down in here. And then that gray box just snaps in under this edge. Once you have it like this, it's pretty much, you have to have them beneath the surface. It has to be flush because the next thing you're gonna do is put a plate over top of it. All right, so you got this little white plate here, okay? And you're gonna put that right over top of all this. And that's gonna hold it all in place. So you got 2 more of these little screws left. Just start this one with your fingers. Start the other one. And then you're just gonna screw them down tight. Congratulations, the worst part of this project is done. Okay, the next step in the instructions is to hang this from the ceiling. Don't follow the instructions. I mean, go ahead and do it if you want to. My advice is to put the blades on next. It is a real pain to try and mount these blades when it's hanging up there and you're reaching above your head and trying to get the screws in. I would rather lift the whole thing up with the blades attached than to try and attach the blades when it's already mounted to the ceiling. So, here we go. We're gonna take this and we're gonna flip it all the way over again. Put it somewhere where it won't get damaged. And this can kind of spin freely here. And we're gonna open our blades. I throw all the trash right back in the empty box. I think it's convenient. Now these blades have 2 different sides. See, this is a lighter color and that's a darker color. My wife wants the lighter color facing down, so that's what I'm gonna do. All right, you need 2 bags of screws and washers. The first bag with the screws in it has a little triangle on it. I'm gonna open that up, dump it onto my instruction book. The next bag has a square on it. Gonna dump that on the instruction book. Make sure you get everything out of the bag before you throw it away. Now we take a screw and a washer. Take your fan, make sure the side that you want facing down is facing down because this is the top, okay? This up here where the wires are coming out, this goes up into the ceiling. So if you want the lighter side down, make it face down. You're gonna put it over these little stubs here. Hold it with your hand. Now imagine doing this above your head. Then put the screw in. Just get it finger started here so it's not cross-threaded. Now I have noticed that these screws, I don't know if it's by design, but they don't go in really easily. You can start them, but then they're kind of snug. I think that might be by design so they don't work their way out. I always get this screw in first, and don't over tighten it. Don't over tighten it, just snug. And then it just sits there and I can do the other 2 screws. Just snug. All right, you're gonna do that 4 more times. All right, congratulations. It should look like a fan now. Believe me, and I'll show you in a minute, it's really not that hard to lift this whole thing up with the fan blades on. It's way easier to do it down here. And if you got one of these backwards, double check it. Look, make sure all the right faces are facing down. If you got one backwards, it's easier to flip it right now than it would be up in the air. So, all right, next step. So now we're gonna choose and install whichever down rod we wanna use. These are the down rods. One of them is a little bit longer and the other one's a little bit shorter. This is a bonus room where I'm installing this and the ceiling's a little bit low, so I wanna use the shorter one, so I have to change this out. Changing out the down rod is pretty simple. Pull this wire out of the way and you're gonna remove this screw right here. With that screw out of the way, this whole thing slides off. You're gonna keep that and use it for the next down rod. Then you're gonna pull this little pin out of the side, like that. Take this rubber bushing off, or it's plastic really, it's not rubber. And you're gonna just switch everything over to this next down rod. So you're gonna take this grounding wire off, take the shorter rod, and just put everything back on it. Starting with the wire, put your little plastic bushing over the top, just like it was on the old one. Line up those holes, take this pin, going through those holes, put it back through. All right, now just gently and carefully so the pin doesn't fall out, you're gonna put that pin into these keyholes right here, just like that. It slides right in, put it in nice and snug. Then you're gonna insert this screw back in. Get it down there nice and tight. There we go. All right, got your shorter down rod now. This next step is very important for safety. So we're gonna take this little square-headed set screw all the way out, set it to the side, you're gonna put it back in. Now we're gonna run all of this wire, and they give you this much wire in case you're setting this fan from like a vaulted ceiling or something. But we're just using, what, 3 or 4 inches? Yeah, so that's all the wire you're gonna need. All right, we're gonna feed this wire. Oh, I'm sorry, I almost did it the wrong way. You're gonna feed this wire up through the hole this way. And I like to go on the same side that the grounding wire is, just keep all the wires together. Pull that all the way through. And then you're gonna just make sure you don't cross thread it. Make sure you get that just right. Yeah, it wants to cross thread, it really does. There it goes. All right, and screw that down all the way in till it's good and snug. You'll feel it. It's bottoming out now. Okay, now you're gonna take that little set screw and you're gonna put that back in where it came from. Get it all the way in finger tight, and then be absolutely sure you tighten that down really good and snug, because that's gonna prevent this from unscrewing as the fan runs. If this unscrews as the fan runs, this whole thing will fall down and hit somebody in the head. Next is the part that always makes me the most nervous. You're gonna cut your wires. They say to go ahead and cut them at 8 inches, which is the same length as the ground. I think that makes sense so that all the wires are the same length. It's gonna give you plenty of wire, but yeah, you gotta just cut the wires. Now you're gonna take this shroud, I guess I'll call it a shroud. It looks like a little bowl. It's got a triangle-shaped hole in the bottom of it. This is gonna go up over your bracket and cover your bracket to make it look nice on the ceiling. So make sure it goes on the right way. It's like a bowl, just like a bowl. You're gonna take your wires and feed it through here. And then you're just gonna set that down over top of it, just like that. So next, clean up your work area. Just get everything out of the way and prep all the tools you're gonna need to wire this in. So you're gonna need your wire nuts from this little bag with the star on it. You guys know what wire nuts look like. Look for the wire nuts. I have this nifty little step stool here that has a nice tray on the top of it, so I'm gonna set my wire nuts there. You're also gonna need the bag with the circle on it. It only has 2 screws in it. Open that up, dump it in your little tray. I'm gonna need my wire strippers. I'm gonna need a Phillips head screwdriver. I'll need my power driver. It's up to you, you don't have to use this, but just makes things easier. And I'm gonna need my needle nose pliers. So now I'm going to lift the whole fan, blades and all, step up on here, and you can support this whole thing underneath it with your hand, just like this, flat underneath. Now you're going to take this triangle-shaped plastic piece, keep your wires going out this way, make sure these wires are out of the way, and you're going to slip that up over the bracket and just let it hang in place. So in my opinion, that was not difficult at all, even with the fan blades in place. Okay, let's get to the wiring. So, coming from the fan here, we got a blue, a black, and a white. Then you've got two green grounds. One comes from the bracket that you just hung the light on, and the other one comes from the fan itself. These grounds are already pre-stripped. Just pull the little tabs off the ends. Pull a little piece of insulation off the ends of those. You're going to separate your grounds from everything else. Get the ends nice and tight, close to each other. Then you're going to find your bare copper wire that comes from the ceiling. That's your ground from the ceiling. You're going to line the end of that up with the other green wires. Take them and just give them a little twist to get all the ends all nice and neat around each other. Grab one of your wire nuts, twist it on. Really nice and snug on that. And then give it a pull check, make sure these wires aren't loose at all. Once you got your grounds done, go ahead and tuck those all the way up in the box. Get them out of the way. Next, I'm going to do my neutral, which is my white wire. The wire that comes out of the fan, we cut that wire, so it hasn't been stripped yet. You're going to strip the end of it. Take the white wire that comes out of the ceiling, same thing, line the ends up, twist them together, and put a wire nut on it. Nice and tight. Give it a pull check, make sure that's good and secure. Tuck your neutrals up into the hole. Try not to get your wires tangled together. It's just going to make things more difficult. Okay, once your neutrals are all out of the way, now if you have 3-wire like I do, we know that this red wire was powering the light in the room. So we want that to still power the light. The light on the fan is the blue wire, okay? So we want to turn the light on and off with the blue wire. Now, if you're not dealing with 3-wire here, if you don't have this red wire, your black wire here is going to be your only hot. So you're just going to wire all 3 of these, both the black and blue from the fan and the black that supplies the power from the switch. And that'll turn the whole fixture on and off, and then you'll have to make adjustments with the little dangly chains. But I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to take the blue wire, like I said, which is my light, and I'm going to strip the end of it, just like before. We're twisting it together with the red wire, which we know turned the light on and off. So that's going to be our light. Blue wire is the light. I don't know if I can say that enough times. All right. I'm going to tuck that back in there out of the way. And now all that's left is a black wire and a black wire. Now this black wire that was in the ceiling that the electricians left for us has electrician's tape wrapped on it. We gotta get the tape off first. Okay, the end of that wire is clean, free from tape. We're gonna strip it just like before. Twist those together. Just want to reiterate, these black wires now are going to power the fan from the switch. Blue wire powers the light from the switch. Black wire powers the fan. All right, we're going to tuck that back up into the box with all the rest of it. It doesn't have to be super neat because you have this entire shroud to go over the whole thing. And that's what we're going to do next. So those two little black screws you got out of the bag go into this shroud. And this shroud has to fit a specific way on this triangle. You'll know because when the triangle lines up, the screw holes will line up. So I'm just going to find this one and just start it finger tight. Put the other screw in. Just finger start it. Then we're going to tighten those in with a screwdriver. They do not have to be super tight, just enough that they're not going to rattle when the fan's running. Snug enough that that's not going to rattle. Okay. Now your fan's going to look like this. Let's put some bulbs in it. This fan came with the appropriate bulbs. These are LEDs. Next, these chains are taped on here. Just gonna get these chains loose. Obviously, this side is marked with a light bulb, so this is the light. I'm gonna pull it once. Now that light should be on. And on this side, we've got the fan. We're gonna go ahead and take the tape off of this side. I'm gonna pull that once also. That should turn the fan on. Now we can take our globe and we're gonna put this on. There's a couple of little tabs that stick out up here. It's pretty self-explanatory, but anyway, the tabs go in the slots and then you turn it clockwise until it sets into place. That's pretty simple. Now we're gonna put our little dangly chains on. These are marked, one with a light bulb and one with a fan. So we're on the side with the light bulb. We take the little plastic piece off of the chain here, and we're just gonna hook the chain together with the clasp. Just like that. You do the same thing for the fan side. Now you've got your chains hanging. Of course, these chains can be adjusted for length. You just cut them to the length you want and then just hook them back in with the clasp. But these are just high enough that I don't hit my head on them, so they're fine for me. If my wife wants them changed, then I'll change them. Okay, I've got the breaker turned back on temporarily just to show you this. We have a single switch here, and that single switch was to turn a light on and off. I wired the light on the fan to turn on and off with this switch. So now the light turns on and off just as before with that single switch, but you notice the fan didn't spin and we turned it on earlier. That's because the black wire is hidden in that switch and it needs power too. Now we're going to get into changing out this switch. Once again, if you are not comfortable with doing this, hire somebody to do it. Hire a professional because this is dangerous. You have to make sure you've shut the breaker off to this power or to this switch. Shut the power off for this switch because if you don't, you could get shocked. It could kill you. Okay, I know there's no power to this switch and I got the right breaker because there's no light turning on. Remember, this switch would turn that light on and off. It's not doing it now, so there's no power. This is the switch I'm installing. This is a double or two switch. Both switches can switch two separate fixtures with one power source. So we're going to start by just removing the old switch. Pull that out of there. It is a good idea to make note, because you're going to have two black wires, which black wire, this is the power source, this is the power that went in, this is what is called the load, and this is the line. So your load is coming in through here, and it's feeding this line, which is the red wire. Remember, the red wire goes to the light. Okay, now we have the switch out of the way. You can see very clearly we have the red wire. That is the line that goes to the light. We have the black wire. That is the load. That's the power that comes from the panel downstairs. And then we have a copper wire, which of course is the ground. Where's the neutral? Well, in a switch, all of the neutrals are wired together back there. We don't have to mess with them. What we do have to find is we have to find that black wire that's going to power our fan. And it's right here. They tucked it in here nice and neatly, and it has black electrician's tape on it. Let's just bend that out of the way so it doesn't get confused with the other black wire. All right, here's the new switch. Now with this new switch, there's no right side up or upside down. I mean, I suppose if it were being mounted horizontal, you would want off, down, and on, up. But it's marked off and on each one. And I just chose to have, when it's off, the switches are towards the door. So when you walk in, you push the switch away from you and it turns it on. That's just what felt natural to me. So that's the way we're gonna mount it. Let's start with easy. Let's just put the ground on right now. Ground is bare copper, just super simple. Screw that copper wire back on. Always make sure your wire is wrapping around the screw in the direction that you tighten it. So you're tightening clockwise, make sure the wire wraps around the screw clockwise. Make sure that's that way for everything. Now the next wire I want to do is I want to do the load. I want to do the power that's coming into the switch. This switch has a little tab in the middle here. This tab powers both switches if this tab is in place. If you need to power each switch separately, you break this tab out. We are not going to need to break that out for our application. So I'm just going to tighten in the top screw so that it's out of the way. I'm going to take my black wire that is my load and I'm going to bend a loop in it so it goes around the screw. And then the one screw that we left out, we're going to wrap it around that, hold it snug with one finger and tighten it in place. Now we have power to both switches because it's bridged. Remember I said with this little tab here, that power is going to power both switches. Now it's important to orient your switch exactly the way you want it to be on the wall. Remember I said when they're off I want them towards the door, and when I turn them on I want them to be away from the door. It's just what I prefer. We know that our red wire is for the light. So I'm going to take the red wire and I'm going to attach it to the top pole right here. I want it to be switched with the top switch. It makes sense to me that the light should be on top and the fan, which is a secondary function, should be on the bottom. That's just the way I prefer it. And now, this little black wire that has been sitting in this box since 2003 when this house was built is finally going to have a use. So let's remove the electrician's tape, strip the wire, bend our little hook in it, and we're going to mount it to our bottom screw, which is the bottom switch, which will of course be our fan. Okay, all that's left to do is to tuck our wires back in there nice and neatly and mount our switch back to the wall. Pro tip, if you have any dirt or residue from the old switch plate left on the wall, use a magic eraser and clean that off. Okay, everything should be correct. I'm gonna go turn the breaker on and we'll test it. All right, breaker's on. Top switch should be the light. Yes. Bottom switch should be fan. Everything works. That is so satisfying. And let me tell you, I wish that when I started doing this, there was a video out there that showed me the things I'm showing you. If you appreciate that, please hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. I do a lot of stuff on my channel. That's why it's Sam's Doing Stuff. Sometimes it's home improvement. A lot of times it's my hobby that I'm changing a firewood hobby into a firewood business. Follow along. I post every Saturday and every Wednesday. And if it's a different thing like this, I'll post it whenever I do the job. And like I said, I hope I'm helping somebody out. That's the whole reason I do this video like this, because, you know, it's not always as easy as the instructions say it is. So anyway, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button if you like this type of stuff, and I will see you next time when I'm doing more stuff.